Hello, today I have a message called Do You Want to See? So here is the short version. When you feel upset or disturbed, remember this question. Do you want to see their innocence? Another way of asking this question, do you want the air that seems to be between you to be full of disturbance or full of openness and joy? Ego sends this question. How could they? Spirit reminds you of this. You write the story they act out. When you say, I didn't do it, they did, this is from the perspective of a separate I. It's easy for you, when you feel disturbance, to pick some one thing and to attribute the disturbance to that. Okay, so back to when you feel upset or disturbed, remember this question. Do you want to see their innocence? Everyone has innocence. That's what we all have in common. But am I distracting myself with a different surface? That's why I made time and space, to pretend that these different surfaces that seem to be not innocence could be real and could affect separate ones that I call myself and I call others, and separate things in both especially positive and especially negative ways. I made time and space. Any I can say that. I'm not claiming that one person made time and space, because we're all the one child of God. So any I can say this, but as you wake up, I made time and space for the purpose of disturbance, and I look out and I see what I want. I see disturbance, I see conflict, I see back and forth, I see anything but our one united soul in harmony. And could you look at us as having different souls? Yes, of course, but be flexible with looking back to the oneness of us. So we express in differentiated ways harmonically as we come back to ourselves, and each one of us has full power over how the story goes, but we don't quite recognize it yet. And if we look at us together as we are, as the one child of God, then of course the return home unfolds harmonically and peacefully. So if it's thy will be done, the plan for our being restored to the full awareness of who and what we are and our eternal innocence, then as we're conducted back in the plan of salvation, saving ourselves from our chosen perception, it is harmonically unfolded. So you don't have to worry about what anyone else is doing. If you're tuned into the harmony, then everyone is tuned into the harmony and following that. So it's just about you sing your part. And this is very meaningful to me because I'm singing, working on a duet with my daughter. So, and what's it about? It's about harmony. So yeah, it's all symbols everywhere. But if you do your part, then everyone else fits in harmonically with you. And it's our job to see all souls, all spirits, all beings as they truly are, not as the fear surface we may have projected upon them. Not as especially right, not as especially wrong, not as especially good, not as especially bad. The only thing any one of us could be forever is goodness without opposite, and we truly can take the shortcut to just go there. But it takes effort to remember that, and not to go on these little distracting pathways we have into the perception of someone else's guilt. I do it every day, and then I have to back out and rest and enjoy the peace of resting in the truth of what we all are together, the beings under the masks of the persons. And more and more it becomes apparent that in this rest, in this harmonic rest, being inspired, being loved, being led, that is what we want. And that is what we can share, these pathways that get illuminated as we follow our own pathway back to seeing accurately who and what everyone is, who and what everything is. Okay. When you feel upset or disturbed, remember this question, do you want to see their innocence? So it always comes down to that. And this applies to objects too. It doesn't matter, the light of God is shining behind everything. Do I want to see that which would be most meaningful and most loving, or do I want to see a story that I made up? about separate persons and separate objects and separate ideas? Do I want the unified light of God, or do I want these stories about separateness? Are these stories about separateness so compelling that I cannot stop to remember the unified light of God shining behind everyone and everything at all times? And it's really just learning that relaxing into and that accepting and falling into that willingness to be led. And when we're in our willingness to be led, we know we don't know anything about anyone or anything. We know we don't. We're not taking a memory from the past with us to orient us, to tell us how to conduct ourselves. We're just understanding we'll be given all the information we need to carry out whatever our role is, and that's what will appear in our mind. Okay. Another way of asking this question: do you want the air that seems to be between you to be full of disturbance or full of openness and joy? And this is truly our decision. And it's something that I'm in the middle of learning. If it seems to be a tension or a disturbance in the air, that is my choice. I have made my choice. Do I want to see the story I made on the surface of time and space that I made? Or do I want to see and experience and have a deep remembrance of what actually is this very loved child of God? This love couldn't go anywhere. This love couldn't decrease. It can only increase forever. Do I want to remember this love that can only increase forever, or do I want to make commentary about the story I made up? Am I finally willing to give the story I made up, and any I can say this, it's not just this person, any I can say this and help everyone? Do I want to give the story I made up with any particular heroes or villains within the story? Do I want to give it back to Spirit, to what I am with everyone and everything, and say, okay, Spirit, use this story to lead me back to the full remembrance of who and what I am and everyone and everything is? I can't be using this story for personal pleasure or a defense of personal pain. I feel pain because of this event in the story. I can't be using the story on behalf of what it looks like my person is to explain the experience of my person. I can't do that and give the story to who and what all of us are at the same time. So this is something I just practice. That's what a day is for. It's to practice giving the story I made up to what all of us are, to bring all of us to the very, very happy and full remembrance of who and what we always have been. Okay. Another way of asking this question: do you want the air that seems to be between you to be full of disturbance or full of openness and joy? So more and more we value how we feel. That is the starting point for healing. And we can allow ourselves to be brought to healing in any moment. We can allow our mistaken ideas to be healed in any moment, any way in which we're devoted to a narrative that would pit one against another, anywhere we're believing a narrative that would leave us different from others. If we go down to the root of us, there's only the one root of us. We all spring from the same source, and there's a sameness in us that's real. And all the difference about us is and forever will be unreal. So there's that line. And so we go back to the beginning, back to the beginning, back to the beginning, back to our source, and say, this thing I made up that I can't seem to let go of, this time and space story, I'm giving it to what I am. And what I am can lead all of us back to the full awareness of who and what we are. That's very different than I want the story to look this way to please me. I want the story to look that way for my person to avoid pain. It's a different orientation. But the purpose of giving the story back to the one of us to lead us through and out of what we made is to avoid pain for everyone. So yeah, there's What does Jesus say? You have no need of tribulation, for I have overcome the world. That's in A Course in Miracles. Is it in the Bible too? I kind of thought it was, but I'm no Bible scholar, so you can tell me. Okay. Ego sends this question. So when we're looking at what seem to be the doings of particular people in the world, and it seems, I just said I hate. All right, well, we found a resistance. I am very resistant to when I get a flash of what seems to be the future, because I don't want to commit to that. I want to commit to not what the past is suggesting, but a speedy restoring of us to the fullness of us and the innocence of us. And I don't want to step into a future of strife if I don't have to. So I put my focus on reorienting. At the same time, though, as we're walking out of our story, we're still attached to our story. So we might be bumping into stories of what look like the wrongdoing of others or ideas of the wrongdoing of ourselves. But if you're looking at another and you say, how could they? You're forgetting that you write the story that they act out. So with our thoughts, we write the story. And it might be just a general story, like there are forces of strife out there and they're separate from me and I have no control over them. Well, that's not true for any of us. We exist together in harmony at all times, and we all have the full power of this harmony. And we've tied our hands on purpose, and we don't take advantage of the full power of harmony all of us share, just by turning towards spirit. So if we run into these stories and it looks like people have done wrong and they have a past where they have done wrong, and the egoic response is, how could they? With the implication being, I never would. I would too. I wrote the story. I'm the author. And I can say this. Yes, I would. Whatever the story is, yes, I would, because I'm the author. I wrote the story. I thought the thoughts, and then I experienced him, where there's this figure seemingly distant from me did this horrible thing to another figure. I am the author. I wrote it. I have to say that. So when I hear this later, I get the reminder, like, hello. Wake up. You're not at fault for writing it. It's fiction. You're not at fault for writing it. Even if you encounter characters and the story's still real to you, the story's still real to them, the pain feels very real. There's no denying that. But the solution to the pain is not to continue to struggle within the story and to continue to write plot lines of strife. The solution to the pain of the story is to withdraw to walk home, away from the story toward home, and your home is together in harmony. And the solution to having entrapped yourself in the story you're making up, and I can say this because there's only one I, the solution to that is to return to harmony and to be led through and out of the story. So that's what we agree to. So it's like I would tell myself, if I can remember throughout the day, never ever forget you're the author. So if you come to a how could you moment, you're deciding to stay cemented in the back and forth strife of the story, where you could be victimized or you could victimize someone. And a sane being, let's not pretend we're persons, a sane being wouldn't do that. A sane being would stop hurting themselves. And everyone has the full shared power to stop hurting themselves and what looks like everyone else. So it's a come to Jesus moment. And here's Jesus right there with us, influencing us and giving us the ideas that in the presence and the loving presence that guides us through and out of our mistake. We made this mistake, and it's only a mistake, and it's not real. It's like a mistake in imagination, back to the full awareness of what we are. All right, is there anything left to say about that? Ego sends this question, how could they? Spirit reminds you of this. You write the story, they act out. And again, it's not just you, one person. It is, we're all one being. And as the truth lights up seemingly in any one of us, it does spread like a virus, a good virus. And so we all eventually fully realize, oh, I'm in charge of the story, but I'm everyone. And as I truly am, in my right mind, the only mind that's going to stay with me forever is my right mind, my sane mind. In my true mind, I'm sane. And no part of me has ever been subject to the drama of this story. And that means when I look at another, in their true mind, they are fully loved, fully sane, fully unharmed by anything this story has ever suggested. No matter what year and place and character you're remembering yourself being, you might have multiple memories of multiple places and times and characters, and that includes on or off this planet. It does not matter. What matters is if you remember a past of being some kind of separate one, you were always wrong and you were always writing the story. And you might be ready after many what seems like many repetitions of, I was this one, I was that one, I was the other one, I was the victimizer, I was victimized, I was in charge, I was poor, I was lowly, I was rich, I was powerless, I was powerful. You might be ready to drop your bullshit now and just go home. The movie's over. You might be ready to just go home. So here we are, and there's only one of us. And we are harmonic. As we seem to be separate, we're harmonic. That's our true nature. And in any moment, we can stop and simply kind of laugh at the story we're writing and acting out with our character here, and just remember our true nature. But my true nature is not this character and this strife and this story. My true nature is not this. And I can use time to stop and remember my true nature, which all share with me. The nature of truth, of trust, of peace, of love, of grace, of light. There can't be any other truth about anyone, and we're not talking about the persons. The persons are the fearful surface we've projected all over the place, different little surfaces in conflict with each other. That's how this works, and it's a result of the thoughts we believe. When we pay very careful and close attention to our thoughts, we're starting to turn back toward home, because we know thoughts make this experience. And it seems in this experience that one thing in the experience causes another thing. But that's only how it appears. That's how it's designed. It's all imaginary, and the thoughts are causative. The thoughts cause the experience. Okay. When you say, I didn't do it, they did, this is from the perspective of a separate I. So they are you. And when you want a moment of rest, you come into the awareness that you're actually together and innocent forever. And none of you has ever been anything but love. None of you has ever been anything but light. None of you has ever been physical, but you've imagined that you've been physical. You've given yourself that experience. None of us has ever been limited by time, but we imagined limits upon separate selves, and we identified with and as these separate selves, and we're still up to that. But if you know what you're up to, you can take some very sane moments to relax out of it and to turn toward home and to say, thy will be done. It is certainly time to go home now. I'm done making the illusion of suffering for me and for those I call other. I'm done. I'm retiring. So give me the retirement party. I'll eat the cake and I'll go home. Okay, when you say, I didn't do it, they did, this separates you from them, and there's no need to separate you from them. This is from the perspective of a separate I. Isn't it fun to stop bullshitting yourself? And to see through the game? And to laugh about it? And to know you don't know how, But somehow you are going to be conducted back to the full awareness of your togetherness and innocence, of your togetherness and peace. And then let the laughter come about the cast party and how unbelievable it's going to be that you believed that they created your suffering or you created their suffering, how you didn't know it was pretend. You had no idea. But now you're remembering. The glimmers are starting and you can laugh about it. So it's easy for you when you feel disturbance to pick some one thing and to attribute the disturbance to that. But that would be fooling ourselves again. And I don't know about you, but I do this every single day. So we can laugh. We can definitely laugh. And then we can take moments of awareness and relaxation and acknowledgement that no, this is not how it is. I'm not disturbed because it's something in my outer environment causing my disturbance. I came here for the disturbance. That was my purpose. My purpose was to turn my back on our harmony. My purpose in making time and space, and I'll say this forever, I can say this, I'm not talking about a person. I'm talking about what we seem to have done but never did. So my purpose in making time and space was for the experience of disturbance, which could never be real. Okay, so I caused an illusion of disturbance by believing thought, and I continue to do that. But at least you know when you have a problem and you can admit you have a problem, you have a thought addiction, you're addicted to thoughts of strife, and you keep making an experience of strife because that's what you're used to. At least then, if you know what your addiction is, you can be helped. And that's where I find myself today. I may be addicted to thoughts of strife and a habitual user of thoughts of disturbance. Why? Because I can look in my world and see it, and I can feel it during my day, even if it's subtle. So I may be addicted, I may have a problem, but the help is right here for me. And when you know what your actual problem is, then your actual problem can be solved. So it's easy for you when you feel disturbance to pick some one thing and to attribute the disturbance to that. What can we do today? We can stop bullshitting ourselves. And how refreshing when I feel disturbed, I can just remember this: I need help. I'm an addict, and what I'm addicted to is thoughts of disturbance. And when I believe these, I see and experience this disturbance. And the belief in these thoughts is optional. And it is up to me. I haven't been victim to anything because power is shared equally among all the children of God. No one can be powerless. We all share the full power of everything that we are in every moment. So I can always call upon this power, relax into it, flow with it, thy will be done, and simply allow myself to wake up into who you are, who I am, and all of that can happen for all of us today. So hope this was helpful for you. It's a good, deep wake-up call for me to be, what do I want to say? To be very aware of what I'm thinking and to not slide into, the addiction patterns, and to rest instead in what is actually here for all of us and to be able to share that. Okay, so thank you for listening and happy healing.